Hello everybody. So this is our fourth Advent podcast for the Scripture Union Ministries Trust Faith Within Reach podcast. Previous weeks I have spoken to a trustee of Scripture Union Ministries Trust. I have spoken to someone who works for the Anglican Church here on the Isle of Man, and I've also spoken to someone who works for the Baptist Church. And this week I'm very, very excited to introduce to you Panda. Hello Panda.
Hello.
Now, Panda wears many, many hats in her life, but one hat that you wear is a Methodist hat. Can you tell us what is your involvement with the Methodist Church here on the Isle of Man?
So excitingly, I have been involved with the Methodist Church for the last, I think it's about 13 to 14 years, and I work in youth work and community work, particularly in Paul Rose, but more nowadays focusing on youth and children's work.
Very exciting. Panda and I get to work together in other capacities as well, and she is an absolutely amazing person. Panda, can you tell us 3 interesting things about yourself?
Well, I had to think about this because I thought many listeners might know me, so through my different disguises. So I just thought, what won't people know about me?
Yes.
So first one, I don't know if anybody knows that I have done a parachute jump from 3,000 feet solo.
Oh, wow.
Twice.
Oh, wow.
Because the first time I did it for charity to raise funds, and the second time I went up to prove that I actually could do it.
Yeah.
Because I was always going to raise the money.
Yeah.
So I kind of did it. It was a bit, yeah.
So solo means you weren't strapped to anyone else?
I wasn't strapped to anybody else. I jumped out on a static line.
Wow.
And had to learn how to do my own emergency parachute if it wasn't successful. But I did both jumps, and it was the most tranquil, amazing experience ever, and possibly as crazy as it is, if it was on the Isle of Man, I'd probably do it more often.
Yeah.
It was beautiful.
Oh, well, I never knew that, so that is interesting. Something else?
Something else. I love the outdoors, and we love, as a family, but particularly myself, we love to explore a lot of the island through the plantations with my dogs. And when we go into plantations, we often like to hide in hammocks so that people don't know we're there, and we kind of set up little mini camps that take 10 minutes to set up with our hammocks, swinging on trees, and then we put it all down and disappear, and it's like we've never been there.
Oh,
but it takes time out.
I love that. That's really cool.
We have actually done it in the minus temperatures with snow.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
crazy as we are.
And what is your third one?
Well, my first one, some of you might have known, I was in the fire service as a retired firefighter for numerous years before I had my children. But my first fire call was to rescue a seagull off a roof in Onken who had got caught in the TV aerial.
Oh my goodness.
And so my first job was to literally sit up and put my finger in the beak while they rescued it.
Finger in the beak, as in it just nibbled on you?
So I had a special glove put on so that the other boys could undo the wings. I had to stop it from pecking everybody. That was my first fire call.
Oh my goodness. Seagulls are massive as well.
They are
huge.
huge.
Must have done some damage to the aerial.
They are huge, and it was quite high up.
Oh, amazing. Thanks, Panda. Even I feel that I have got to know you better.
Well,
so that's great. Very lovely. Now, everyone else that I've met with during Advent has brought me a Christmas cracker joke.
I've got the best. I think anyway. My children didn't think so, but I thought, how did Darth Vader know what Luke Skywalker got for Christmas?
How did Darth Vader know what Luke Skywalker got for Christmas? I don't know.
He felt his presence.
He felt his presence. I think that might have got the biggest laugh from me. Yeah, no, I do like that one.
I thought that was quite funny.
Yeah, I like that one a lot. So this week, we have decided that the thing we're going to look at in the Christmas story is the sense of lasting traditions and lasting impressions. So when you kind of think of the Christmas season, there comes a time after the end of December, depends how tidy you are, I think, when you start to pack everything up, don't you?
Yeah.
You pop it all away, and things remain boxed up or bagged up in your attic or your garage or the cupboard under your stairs, wherever it is, until the next year, and then you get them out and you do the same thing over and over again. But for us, with the Christmas story, with the birth of Christ, there should be things that remain with you when everything else has been packed away. And so Panda and I thought that what we'll talk about is what remains with us. What are our lasting impressions of the Christmas story? But before that, Panda,
Okay.
I want to quiz you about the traditions you have in your family right now that you have kept over the years.
Oh gosh, that was a really interesting one because you gave me these questions yesterday, and I asked my children, who are now young adults, what were our traditions, and we discovered we don't actually have many as a family. When my father was alive, it was the excitement of Grandad coming, and all of that, what that brought with it. And as obviously they're now young adults, we were thinking, what do we do? What have we held on to? And I think for us as a family, it's holding on to spending time with each other, holding on to, we lock down, it's that winter months, isn't it? It's like the fire, it's having nice food, it's that to us.
Cozy time.
Yeah, cozy time, summarised Christmas to us, rather than traditions. Because when the children were little, there was reading "'Twas the Night Before Christmas" was a tradition we would read.
Okay, that's interesting.
And on Christmas Eve, we'd follow Santa across the world on the navigation system and things like that.
Yeah.
But obviously, as you get older, those things disappear, and you start putting new things. So we did come up with 2 new traditions that we have been doing for the last 4 or 5 years, and one of them is very close to my heart. And I go up to Ballygarry in St Mark's, and they do carols by candlelight, and it's always literally just before Christmas. So for this year, it's on the 23rd of December.
Oh, beautiful!
And it's just a fabulous service, reflecting on the Lord, reflecting on people's incredible voices, and it just symbolises the start of Christmas for me. All the business is finished, and I can just rest in His presence and have the most magical service that I come away from filled with joy.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love that. Yeah, we've got some, I think for me, I think I'm quite similar to you, that it wouldn't be many kind of materialistic traditions, and I definitely see some things that I have carried on from when I was a child that I've taken on for my children. So when I was growing up, especially as a teenager, my mum and dad always had a huge emphasis on Christmas being about looking outwards, so looking at other people. And I was watching a kid's Christmas film the other day, actually, and it had a line in it that said, Christmas is a magnifying glass for everyone. So if you are already happy and feeling loved, Christmas makes you feel more happy and feeling loved.
Definitely.
If you are unhappy or you are lonely, Christmas makes you feel more unhappy and more lonely. And my parents quite often volunteered at local homeless shelters and stuff like that when we were growing up, and that really cemented something in me. So for us as a family with small children, traditionally we've actually helped run a community Christmas meal.
Nice.
Which has been really nice. And this is the first year since we've moved over, we're not actually involved in that this year, so it's going to feel quite strange not doing that this Christmas. And then we have a few traditions that I have definitely chucked out the window. So the kind of tradition all over the country of the Christmas pudding.
Yes.
I just can't stand Christmas pudding. So I would do it for Sam, but to me, it's like soggy glue with bits in.
And the white sauce.
Exactly, the white sauce. And I just don't understand the point of it, because no one eats it apart from Sam. So he'll then eat an entire Christmas pudding by himself because he'd feel obliged to finish it because it's a tradition. So there's some things that definitely get chucked out, aren't there?
Definitely. I mean, we as a family haven't had dessert or starters on our Christmas table.
The cheese board.
No, we don't even do that on Christmas Day. By the time we have eaten Christmas dinner, because we put so much on the table, and I just love all the extra vegetables. You put the braised cabbage in that you don't do all the time. You just do so much more for that one meal that we don't have space for anything else.
I definitely appreciate the vegetables more now than as a child.
Yes.
Vegetables are the best bit, actually.
Stuffings. All the different stuffings. All the different flavoured stuffings. In fact, I could forgo everything else and just have stuffings and veg.
I'd need gravy as well.
Yeah.
Have you seen the new? You probably won't have seen it, but there's a new tradition that's going around on TikTok and stuff now, which is adding edible glitter into your gravy to make glitter gravy. It makes me feel a bit funny. I don't think I could eat that.
Well,
so you pour it on your plate and it all is shimmering.
Yeah, no, I don't think that would do for me. And we've actually recently bought the Wicked from the musical. Robinson's made 2 juices, cordials, and that had glitter in them and swirls, and that was a bit to
Did
drink.
it taste a bit gloopy?
No, it was okay to drink because it was diluted, but it just, the thought of it more than anything else.
No, that wouldn't.
And the colour, the shade of green wasn't natural.
No.
But it was very nice. Tasted nice. Just tasted of like a fruit punch.
Yeah, and you did it once.
I tried it.
Only lived once.
Yeah.
Well, let's move on to the Christmas story then. And this is not that other weeks haven't been serious, but for me, when I think about what stays with me after Christmas, actually it does make me feel quite sombre, because those things that stay with me, you suddenly realise just how important that story is.
Absolutely. For me, if you were to ask me what's the Christmas story, I'd say awe and wonder. Awe and wonder, because I just, for this year particularly, it's been really highlighted to me through different teachings and what I've been studying and reading myself, is how much of the Christmas story is in the Old Testament. Not just what was prophesied over about the Lord coming, but all the bits where the angels visited, and Moses and taking the people out of Egypt, and them having to escape to Egypt, Mary and Joseph, and just all the connections, and the angels visiting, and the role of the shepherds, and Jesus saying, I am the shepherd, and just so much of it this year has sprung out to me as a fresh revelation of the awe and wonder. Because you do hear it year in, year out, the story, and you can just go, oh, it's the Christmas story. But I think sometimes we need to remember it's the Christmas story. It's our Saviour's birth that we all believe in, and we can be empowered by and realise the significance that God came down as man.
Absolutely. And for me, the thing that sticks with me, I think, is just the fact that it has endured millennia now. We're still talking about this same story year on year. And I remember with each one of my children, I don't know if you ever felt it with your children too, but when they were born, the hours after they were born, I definitely remember holding them and thinking that it's so bizarre that the whole world hadn't stopped, because I'd just been part of something so momentous. Like, you suddenly have this baby put in your arms, and by the way, they just let you leave the hospital with it. Like, no training given. You have to fill out a lot of paperwork to get fish from Pets at Home. Nothing to take a baby home. But I remember just sitting there thinking, my life has changed forever now. And yet the world was just going on, perfectly normal outside. People were getting ready for work. People were picking up coffee, doing the shop, dropping their kids at school. But actually, for Mary, she probably had that same moment where she thought, everything has changed for me, but it doesn't seem like anything's changed outside. Like, the whole of Bethlehem was still sleeping. But what we know now with hindsight is that's the only birth that has ever happened that has consistently and continually carried on changing the entire world more and more as each year passes.
Definitely. And I also wonder, Mary, I remember when I had Donald for the first time, my child for the first time, I just was that awe of, you were inside me. And looking at yourself when you're lying in that bed, looking at your baby, thinking, how? And the wonder how God does that part of creation of something new. And I was just blown away with Mary, would have felt that too. And just, as you say, she had the bleating of the animals around her, the simplicity of it.
And her humility. So you think about someone else who had been told by an angel that they were bearing the Son of God, that had been conceived by God. And a lot of people, I think, would have been a lot more demanding. Well, hang on a minute, God. Like, can you not give me more than a stable? Hang on a minute, like, I should be having this baby somewhere, like, provide for me, give me this, do this for me. But for her, there was just an acceptance that she wasn't expecting her personal circumstances to change. It was all about the baby.
But I think also historically at that time, it wasn't about me. It was about community. They lived like community. They had their festivals all together. they would have lived in fellowship with the nearest people.
Yeah.
Whereas I think in today's world, you're quite right, it would have been like, hang on a sec, where's the 5-star hotel?
Yeah, exactly.
I've got the King of Kings
and the
here,
media coverage.
And the media, why aren't you putting me in a nice private wing? Whereas in Mary's time, there wouldn't have been, and they didn't have the money. They didn't have, Mary and Joseph were just ordinary people that were just living to survive. And I think that's the other part of the nativity that I often think about, is the amount of people involved in that story, like Mary and Joseph, like the shepherds, who were not the top of society. They were not the wealthiest. They were just, God just used everyday people.
Yeah.
And the richness of that we can reflect on, that for you and I, God can use us.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I really agree with that. And I think that for me, combined with the outward focus that my parents instilled in me as a child, means that I definitely every single year am struck anew by God's heart for those who are not exalted in our world, the people who find things tough, the people that are scraping together money to get their kids presents at this time of year, or who don't have anyone to share Christmas Day with, or they're struggling with pain or long-term illness or rejection, whatever else. And for me, I listen to the nativity story year on year, and I sing the carols, and the humble side of it, and God's gentle way of honouring and exalting those who don't usually stand out is so beautiful to me. And for me, it also continues. So when the wise men visit him, and then Joseph is warned in the dream not to go back home that way, because Herod will get them, and they have to flee to Egypt. I think people often forget, like, it's not said with the word refugee. If it was, maybe it would hit people in the face a little bit harder, but you're essentially looking at a very, very poor couple with a baby who are having to flee their homeland somewhere else. They didn't arrive, and they weren't able to get a fancy house or go on a cruise down the river or stay in a resort. They would have been scrabbling for pennies.
Definitely.
And so this Christmas and every Christmas, that should stick with us as well, that Jesus knew from an early age what it was like to know that God was with you wherever you were, but to not have a physical home, which is really humbling as well, isn't it?
Very humbling. Very humbling, which is, I guess, part of my family way of doing Christmas is, it is about spending time with people. And that's not friends. I mean, I do meet up with friends and everything else, but it's, for me, Christmas is about my family and making sure we spend quality time with each other, because all the year we're passing ships, we meet for birthdays, we meet the odd Sunday. It's in and out of each other's lives, whereas Christmas we just tend to be more intent. Like with my brother and his family, we just tend to be more intent about spending time.
Yeah, it is. Everything can just slow down for a little bit. And we were talking about this earlier, weren't we? Like, it's got to that point right before Christmas where I'm longing for that stop. I'm looking forward to taking some time off work, for the children to not be in school, all the busyness of getting everyone out in the morning with their packed lunches and the right uniform and their PE kits and this, that and the other, just being able to stop and spend time together in peace.
It's that stopping the clock watch, isn't it? It's, you don't have to watch your clock when you stop over the Christmas season. You get up when the sun rises, you eat when you're hungry. I just think that's all the richness of Christmas. And I think that's what part of the Christmas story also tells you, doesn't it? It was about being where they needed to be for the right people to be in the right place. And that's the other awe wonder of the Christmas story.
Yeah, absolutely.
How everybody was just in the right place for it all to happen.
Yeah.
It's not coincidental, it's what God wanted, because he wanted us to be able to relate to it.
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree. Well, we've kind of rounded off every podcast over Advent with 4 different little challenges for our listeners.
Oh, yes.
So the first one is something to read, and with the other podcast, we've really urged people to look at that specific part of the Christmas story that we've been talking about and study that for the week ahead in whatever version Bible they've got. But this, we've kind of been looking at it overarching, So perhaps people, especially if they've got children, would like to read one of the children's stories that gives an overview of the Nativity. But do you have anything else that you can recommend for people?
I'm not going to recommend anything because we're talking about having that space and that time to just lock down and spend time. So I'm going to challenge adults particularly and young adults to look on the bookshelves and find that book that they've always wanted to read but have just never had time to read.
Oh, I love that.
Whether it's a book on faith, whether it's a book about well-being, whether it's any book that you've got on that bookshelf or you're stacked by your bed and you just think, one day I'll get to read that.
Oh, that's a great idea.
To finish off the podcast,
yeah,
that's hail that's coming through.
Yeah, I know. In case it sounds like there are tiny elves knocking in your ears, it has just started to epically hail behind us.
Yes.
But do you know what? We're going to push through anyway.
So yes, and for children, I just want them to find a book that they can read as a family.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't matter what the age of the children. It's just to sit and read something together.
Yeah.
As a family, just to reflect at this time.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah, I think that was my book side because I'm going to do that myself.
I've got a few in mind that I think I could do, and this will be good prompting for my husband. Husband, if you're listening, you know those 6 million books that you like to start and never finish. Maybe you could finish. Choose one and finish one.
Yeah, definitely.
What about something to listen to? Do you have a favourite song for this season?
Yeah, I do. I have two. I'm picking two. I'm being greedy.
Okay. I'll let you
off. So I love Kate Rusby.
Okay.
I love her Sweet Bells.
Sweet Bells by Kate Rusby. She is amazing.
I just love that Christmas carol. It just makes me go, ooh, inside. It's a jingly one that just makes me feel great.
Yeah.
And then in this season where we talked about thinking of people who don't necessarily have it all perfect and Christmas is not perfect. And it can cause anxiety. It can cause stress for a lot of people. I've been listening to Still Waters by leanna Crawford. And that's just been a really empowering, enriching song where you sing scripture over every situation. And I would turn to that when that moment it gets too big, where it feels too much. That's a really good little song to put on your podcast and listen. But also, what about all the podcasts out there at the moment? There's so many good podcasts that you can find and listen to that just make you think differently.
Yeah, absolutely. I've not heard that song before. Still Waters, leanna Crawford. I'm going to listen to that on my way home today, I think. That's really good. Now, something to do, when we were chatting together, Panda and I, and we were talking about those Christmas traditions, things that last, then we were thinking what might be really nice for you to do as a family, especially you kids, if you're listening, is for you to actually write down that your favourite Christmas traditions, the things that you do with your mums, your dads, your aunts, your uncles, your grandparents, that you would like to continue over the years, because there may be a time when you forget and you want to know what was really important to you at this age. And if you are older and you're listening to this, then why don't you find someone that you can share with them Christmas traditions that were incredibly important to you as a child? Maybe you want to try and bring one back to life that you've not done for years to come. And then within that, maybe that will prompt you to just go away and ponder what part of the Christmas story is going to stick with you this year. When everything else is packed away at the end of December or in January, what is going to stay with you from that amazing story? And finally, something to pray about.
I think this time of the year is a good time to reflect on praying. What do you want God, or how do you want to work with God in 2025? We're coming to the end of the year. We're coming into that season where we reflect and we look forward. And you're not going to put something in place that's going to happen instantly, but it's a really good time to pray with God. Spend some time in fellowship with Him to say, Lord, how do you want me to serve you in this year ahead?
Yeah, definitely.
So I think that's what I will be praying. And I love to ask God for 2 words to live by. So my year 2024 was contagious faith. That was my 2 words that whenever I had an opportunity to share my faith with somebody, I was contagious and I'm brave to do it. And I'm going to ask God again for 2 more words for this year.
What a brilliant challenge.
2025.
I love that. I absolutely love that. I'm going to do that as well for this coming year. Well, thank you so much, Panda. I've enjoyed chatting to you.
I've enjoyed
even
this.
with the hail outside.
Yes, that was quite big.
Yeah. And we wish you all such a Merry Christmas
definitely.
and a peaceful Christmas. And may the Christmas story stick with you, even when all your decorations have been packed up. May that story of Jesus coming down to earth to be with us, may that stay with you for the whole of the year ahead. We will hopefully record another podcast soon, and you'll be able to hear our beautiful voices. And Panda, maybe you can come back on the podcast at some point in the future.
Who knows?
We'd love to hear from you again.
Definitely. Take care.